All right, you guys, we are finally back here with some NHL 25 content right now, but because there are so many new things in franchise mode, I'm going to take you guys through it a little bit and do a bit of an overview of the franchise mode. I'm assuming this video is going to be about an hour in length, but if you have come across this video and you've never seen my channel before, we do a bunch of franchise mode stuff and some other games as well. But if you enjoy franchise mode, you can go back and you can watch the Winnipeg Jets series that we did last year or the Sens series from 2 years ago. They are two of my favorite GM modes that I've ever had, and I hope if you guys go back and watch them, you have some fun with them as well. There are incredible storylines in there. But all that being said, let's get started with this one. So we start up our franchise mode and we are given a choice. You can do a 33 team expansion or custom league. I'm going to stick to authentic for this one just because there's way too many things to go through if you want to do custom or 32 team or 33 team expansion, excuse me. So we're going to stick with authentic, and now we get to enter our name, of course. So after you enter your name, you're given a choice. Which team do you want to play as? We are obviously going to be playing as the best team of all time, of course. Don't worry, they're going to win a championship in the next 3 years. Don't call me delusional. The Ottawa Senators, of course. Here we go. Western Conference, Eastern Conference. We're going to leave it all the same, but you can always switch it around if you would like to. Now, here's where things get interesting already is at this point. We have owner mode, which I usually always turn off, and I'm going to turn it off for this one. Fantasy draft. If you want to do a fantasy draft, it just means that every player, you can draft any player in the NHL and they all go to different teams. The entire NHL will be changed around. McDavid could be on the on the Kings, or Crosby could be on the Flames. Like, it doesn't matter, right? Anything can happen. Salary cap, we will leave that on. GM firing is off. CPU trades, this just means that the computer will make trades as well, so the league is always fluctuating. Now, player morale is something that we usually turn it off, but for this one, we're gonna leave it on, actually. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do my actual series like this, but for this video, I will leave it on. Fog of War is something that essentially means you have to scout everybody in the NHL to find how good they are. So if you're really into the scouting and you really want to find out like how this player would fit on my team and also what their attributes are, their individual attributes, you can turn that on to find Fog of War. But like for me, I already know Sidney Crosby is Sidney Crosby, But if there are some rookies who come into the league that you're that you're not so sure about because they're rookies and you have that on, you would have to scout those rookies instead of just being told their information. So it's something that's a decent concept, but I think EA does it pretty poorly. Head coach edit line, I'm going to turn that off because we will go into there. Then auto owner mode. If you're doing owner mode, this is just going to basically automatize all of the owner decisions for you. And then accept relocation. Again, if your owner mode is on, you can change where the franchise is located. Auto sign free agents. This is just going to do exactly what it says. It's going to sign free agents automatically for you. We turn that off because, of course, we want to make all the decisions for ourselves. And then the same thing with the staff management, just the same type of thing. Now, for my rules and settings, I really only touch a couple of things. Accessibility is, I just leave all accessibility as normal, as what it is. Into quick settings now. And here's where if you want to jump into games and you want to see like actual times, like sometimes when I jump into games, like overtime games in the playoffs, I just leave it on 20 minutes. You could do 3 minutes, but then you're going to go to like quadruple overtime. So I just leave it on 20 minutes, just make the changes myself. Injuries, we keep those on. Franchise mode length, right? If you wanted to only do 5 years and try to win a cup super fast, you could change it to 5 years. I leave it on 25 for mine though, just in case I want to go super long. Difficulty, this is going to decide how hard the difficulty is when you're in game. So it doesn't have anything to do with the mode, the simulation, nothing like that. It's only when you go into the game. And if you wanted to play games yourself, this would be the difficulty you play on. So I leave it on pro usually just because I find that it's the best balance between my team doing well and their team doing well. Draft pick ownership will keep us authentic. Again, if you wanted to go classic or authentic, I'm not actually exactly sure what the difference is. Oh yeah, classic, just everybody gets a pick, and authentic is the picks that have been traded in the real world are traded in this universe. So we keep that on authentic. NHL salary cap is on. Trade difficulty, so if you wanted to make it more hard for yourself, we could do trade difficulty of hard. If you wanted to make it really easy, you could do trade difficulty of easy, and basically the values are just going to reflect that. Waivers, we keep those on. Except relocation is off, Fog of War is off, all these other things. And then auto scouting, so I usually do no auto scouting. But for this, because I'm going to simulate an entire season, I'm going to do both. And I'll show you guys a little bit of the draft, but I might have another video coming out just with scouting alone, because scouting is a really big thing and there would be a whole video on itself for it. But for right now, I'm not going to talk about scouting in this one. Moving on to the advanced settings now. Advanced settings, NHL or head coach edit lines. There's no NHL injuries when they're playable. I usually do when fully healed just because it gets really annoying. Like if you want to throw them in when they're playable and then they get injured again. So I usually just tell me when they're fully healed, and then in the playoffs I can switch it to playable. Minor league, I let that head coach edit those lines. Auto rotate goalies is on. Now sim engine scoring, draft class quality, generator prospect quality, and sim engine shot frequency. I'm going to leave all these settings on what they are originally set to, but if you want to go through it, sim engine scoring, this basically just controls how many goals get scored while simming. So if you wanted it to be, like we're back in the early 2000s, you can put it on low. Draft class quality, this is going to generate how strong, how deep a draft class is. So like you can maybe find some medium elite players in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round. Whereas if you have it on low, those types of players are going to be really far and few between. If you put it on high, there's going to be a lot more of those players. So again, we're going to keep it on medium. And then generated prospect quality, this is like how many high-end players you're going to find. So, you're more likely to find, if you were on high, you're more likely to find a franchise player. If you're on low, finding a franchise player is really tough. So we keep that on medium for now. And then shot frequency, how many shots you take during the sim, right? You can have it on low, not too many shots, maybe like 20, 30 shots. If you have it on high, maybe you're looking at like 40 shots or something like that, a little bit higher. So we will keep it. What was it on? It was on high, I think, right? Yeah, I think it was on high. So we'll leave that on high. Playoff series length, again, you could change this to make it single knockout, best of 3, best of 5, best of 7. We're just going to keep it at authentic. Playoff tiebreak is continuous OT, but if you wanted to switch it up, do a shootout when after regulation and it's tied, you could do shootout, you could do 3-on-3, 4-on-4, or continuous OT. We leave it how the NHL has it, and that will be continuous overtime. And then for an overtime loss in the regular season, that's 1 point. But again, if you wanted to change this to make it no points because you think a loss is a loss, you don't get points for going extra time, then fair enough. You can make it no points. We will leave it at 1. And then season tiebreak authentic. But, again, authentic is just 3-on-3 and then shootout. But if you wanted to change it to single overtime, 5-on-5, like how it is in the playoffs kind of a thing, or no overtime, you just tie, we will leave it as authentic. Head coach firing. So this is going to show you, and trade notifications. So head coach firing is going to show you when somebody else fires their head coach to give you a chance to maybe pick them up if you wanted to. Trade offer notifications, you're going to get a little notification that's going to pop up and it's going to say, hey, this team wants to offer you a trade. Do you want to accept it? Do you want to decline it? Or do you want to edit the trade? And you can do so accordingly. Waiver notifications. Waivers is just when a team sends a player down who is not on his entry-level deal, so he's like a little bit older player, it's going to give you the chance to claim that player on waivers, which basically just means you can take them from the team that they're being sent down to, and you can play them in the NHL if you wanted to. And then morale meetings, we will leave morale meetings on. Retired jerseys, we can leave that on, or, we can turn it off, whatever. I will leave it on for this one. Into gameplay sliders. Now, gameplay sliders is pretty important because, especially for the general, but if you wanted to change the way that the AI plays, this is where you would go to change the speed of the game, to change the fatigue effect, the recovery, to change how fast the game is, to change the shooting, right? How hard they shoot, how accurate they are. All I do though for right now is I'm going to leave everything how it is and just come down to injury and turn the injury occurrence to like 15 or so. Usually I play on like 12 or 13, but sometimes, I fiddle around with it because sometimes I find when I'm on like 15, I'm going to get an injury every week. You can go and watch that Winnipeg Jets series, and there were times when we were getting so many injuries, and then I turn it down to like 13 instead of 15, and I get no injuries the entire season. So there really is, you got to try to find a sweet spot. I'm going to do 12 actually because I don't want to be editing lines or anything like that in this one, and that is what gameplay sliders looks like. So those are all the settings that I run with, and now we can start the career up, and immediately you're going to be hit with the, are you sure you want the salary cap on? The system will now fix some teams that are non-cap compliant before continuing. So what this means is some teams are currently over the NHL salary cap. Like teams like, I think Toronto is over the salary cap. Colorado is over the salary cap because Landeskog is on their roster and instead of being on the injury reserve. This is what the new screen looks like, but I'm going to continue my point about the injuries. 1 sec. So I just want to show you guys this real quick. So that thing that said the teams will be auto cap adjusted, basically, what this means is a team like the Colorado Avalanche now, instead of Nathan MacKinnon making $12.6 million like he's supposed to, he now makes $600,000 less at $12 million. Mikko Rantanen is supposed to make $9.25. He makes $400K less at $8.8. Cale Makar is supposed to be making 9 million, and he's making 400k at 8.6, so which just adjusts all the cap to be, you know, under or sorry, yeah, sorry, like a couple of $100,000 less than what they are in the real world. Now, why does it do this? The reason it does this is because there are people in the real world like Valerian Nichushkin and Gabriel Landeskog who are not playing for the Avs and whose salary do not count for the Avs. Actually, I'm not sure if Nichushkin's salary counts, but I know that Landeskog's salary does not count to the Avs. So that's $6 million that the Avs do not have to worry about in the real world. But in this universe, Landeskog is on the team because, you know, EA thinks that he's going to come back and play or whatever. So he is making 6.67 million. He should be making like $7 million a year or something like that. But in this universe, he's making 6.6. But what this means is that the Avs can now sign somebody to free agency when they would not have any salary cap whatsoever. So that's what that means. Now, there are videos out there that show you how to make your roster salary cap compliant. Basically, you would have to go into the Avs and take a guy like Mikko Rantanen, who's only on 1 year deal, and just drop his salary like to league minimum or something like that. And then the rest of these guys wouldn't be on it. And you might say, yeah, but it's not that big of a deal. But I think it is a big deal that they adjust these salaries so much. Like Nathan MacKinnon is $600,000 less than what he's supposed to be. That means in the future, right? When we're 7-8 years in the future, Nathan MacKinnon's only going to be making 12 mil instead of 12.6. You're going to be able to sign Cale Makar because you have freed up excess cap. Same thing with Devon Toews, right? He has a big contract in the real world. And now Cale Makar in 27-28, you're going to be able to sign him because these guys are making so much less money than they are supposed to. So it gives GMs, the AI GMs, an easy out. It also gives you an easy out if you are doing the Avalanche or somebody like that. So I always fix my salary caps to make it so that, you know, teams have to suffer with the caps that they have been given in the real world. So a bit of a rant there. All that to say, if you want to fix your salary caps, you can. But if you don't want to, I understand that as well. It's a lot of work to go in and do it all manually. So I definitely understand if you don't want to go fix your caps. But here we are at the new franchise mode screen. Now, we're going to see there are quick links. We can sim games into regular season, all this stuff. It looks completely different, but all of it is fairly similar to what we know and love. Now, if you press square if you're on PS5 or X if you're on Xbox, I think it's X, right? Yeah, pretty sure. You can go into the calendar and you can see your games. This is where you will do most of your simulation. If my game could load, here it is. Yeah, this is where you would do most of your simulation, right? We can simulate a month. We can simulate however long we want. We can go to January 2025 if we want and simulate these games. Now, you're going to notice in the bottom right-hand corner, that's going to look pretty similar just with the standings. And if you flick the right stick, I'm pretty sure it's the same on Xbox, but on PS5, if you flick that right stick, you're going to be able to look at all the standings across the league. So that remains the same from the last games. We can also click the start button and switch to the AHL if we want to watch the AHL games, and the same thing on the bottom right hand side of your screen, we can change the divisions. So if we back out of that screen, we hit circle to back out of it, we will see the next matchup that we have right in the middle of your screen here, Boston versus the Ottawa Senators. We're in preseason, so nobody has stats or anything like that. You will see the projected goalies, which is kind of cool. And then on the right-hand side, we get to see the matchup. So it'll show us the goals for, the goals against, the power play, the penalty kill, and the team leaders. If we hit the right trigger, now we get to see the Eastern and the Western Conference. If we hit the right trigger again, we get to see our team leaders, so defenseman points, forward points, goals, assists, goalie wins. And again, one more time, we see the league leader. So this is pretty interesting. It's a good addition to the game, I think, where you can just quickly scroll through. Oh, I want to see who the league leaders are. I'll quickly scroll through that. Oh, I want to see who's the league leaders on my team, or sorry, my team leaders, and what do their stats look like? Their team stats. Do we have to change anything in the lines? Things like this. It's pretty good. I think it's a very good addition. Now we want to just advance a single day. You can click this button here on the side. Okay, we have a new coach. We'll have to start a conversation with him, and now would be a good time for us to talk about morale. So I'm not entirely sure if this is 100% new, but it definitely seems like it. So what's our season goal? Let's make a season goal here. You can also do other things too. Let's say we want to make the playoffs. We're the Ottawa Senators. Let's try to make those playoffs. And then the coach is going to say, thank you for the vote of confidence. This could be the start of something great. All right. And then for preseason, we can make a preseason goal now. And this is going to actually increase potentially some of our stats. So I did some testing with this in my own GN mode just to make sure that I kind of know what I'm talking about. And I think it actually had a pretty big impact. So what I did in my last one was I did not do conditioning. I didn't do strength training. I think I did, where is it? I think I might have done 5-on-5 focus, puck control, defensive and offensive awareness, and deking goes down, because deking is not a stat that I'm too concerned about. But offensive and defensive awareness seem really crucial. You could also do, what else would I recommend? Let's see. Penalty killing could be nice, although it does decrease offensive awareness. It will up your defensive ability. So if you want to be a more defensive team, if maybe you're like the Winnipeg Jets and you have Connor Hellebuck, somebody like with a crazy goalie and you want to have a really strong defensive team, maybe you could work on the penalty kill for everybody. Then video sessions as well. Now this is great because it puts offensive and defensive awareness up, but be careful, your shot power is going to go down. So yeah, just a lot of things that we can do. And if you want to really focus on your goalies, be a super defensive team and only focus on goalies, you can do that as well. I'm going to stick with 5-on-5 focus though. It'll drop the deking maybe, but some of our players might get a little boost there to their other attributes. So we'll end that conversation. Let's get to work. And now I'll show you the rest of the morale because the morale system is pretty interesting. So we're going to scroll down. You can just scroll down using your left stick or your D-pad on PS5, and we're going to go to morale. So we'll click into morale and we will see all of our players are here no matter what their overall is. We have 75 overalls on this roster that are here. So a meeting is available. Let's go to Linus because we want Linus to have a good season. Let's click on X to start a meeting with him, and we can give them goals now. So we can give him a season goal. We can end the conversation. And I think for players, you can also look at X factors and things like that as well. So let's discuss what we expect of you this season and determine your main focus. Now we can do short-term or long-term. For Linus, I'm going to do a long-term goal. Let's focus on the season as a whole. And we can get him to win. So if he wins 40 games, 50 games, whatever it is, we can do one of these. Win 40 games this season, win 50 games this season, get a 9-10 save percentage, win the Vezina, and basically if he does these things, it's going to give him a little boost. Let's just say 40 games. Let's hope that this simulation can show us winning 40 games. That would be nice. Winning games is all that matters. We want to see you win at least 40 games this season. And then he says, sure, whatever. And then I'll just say, we'll end that conversation. I'm looking forward to seeing you complete this goal. So that's what it looks like for goalies. Now, if we do players out here, who is somebody who we want to see? Let's go to Brady. Sure, why not? Let's go Brady, and we'll do a half season goal for Brady. So let's start the meeting up. And what do we want to say? We want to set a season goal for you. And season goals, basically, you're going to be able to do short-term or long-term goals. You'll also be able to give them X factors if they don't already have X factors. So let's do a short-term goal for Brady. And we are going to give him a stat challenge, yes. And the stat challenge will be, so we can do goals. That'll increase his accuracy, passing, give him a certain amount of assists. If he gets 25 assists, his passing will go up between 1 and 4. And I guess that's all for Brady. So let's give him a goals challenge. 20 goals in the first half of the season. We want you on pace for 40. Sure, why not? You can't really change the threshold. Like you can't say, okay, Brady, we want 5 goals for half of the season. That would be a little too cheesy. So they did not allow us to do that. So that's basically what you can do. You can do full season goals like we did with Allmark. You can do half season goals like we did with Brady Tkachuk to see if we can get their overalls up. Now, one more thing I want to show you guys before I go off and do this on my own, and I'll speed it up for you so you don't have to sit here, is we'll go to Jake Sanderson. We'll start a meeting with him, and we want to do another season goal. So we want to click on the long-term goal, and we're going to say X factor. Let's focus on what you're best at so that you can master it. We want to give you an X factor. Now, what do we have to do? A 1T, you're going to have to score 15 power play goals. As a defenseman, that's going to be pretty much impossible. We're not going to give you that one. You have to score 30 goals for Schneip. No thanks. 3 hat tricks for Chakanon. Not going to happen. 40 assists for Third Eye. For somebody like Jake Sanderson in this simulation, he might be able to get 40 assists. 5 power play goals for Seeing Eye. That would be tough. So I think the only one that's feasible really for Jake Sanderson is we'll give him 40 assists. I don't know if he's going to get this, but we're going to try 40 assists for Jake Sanderson by the end of the season. I'll throw him on the first power play, the first line defensively, all that stuff, and we'll see if he can't get a X factor by the end of the season. So guys, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to speed this up for you, but I'm going to go through every single player that I feel is a good contributor to this team, and I'm going to make a meeting with them and give them either a long-term or a short-term goal, or maybe some X factors, and by the end of the season, we will be able to see if they hit their goals, if they miss their goals, and how that affects their overall. So just give me one quick second. But also something I forgot to say is that we can actually change something else about players. We can go into their on-ice play. I'm here with Tim Stutzla. We can go to your on-ice play. Let's discuss some on-ice tactics of your game. What do you have in mind? So we can change their play style. Now it does say persuasion is very risky. Explanation is that the persuasion offers a risk-reward approach to resolving a conversation you are involved in. The younger the player, the lower the morale, and the higher the overall will factor into the player and them being more willing to change. So if you want to discuss Tim Stutzla's play style, he says, I don't really want to change my playstyle. It's risky for you to do that. For the position, we can talk about what position do you play, Timmy? You play center, of course, but we can get you to change position. We want to move you out of the center position, and that says it's going to be very convincing. If we want to move him to the right wing, we want you primarily at the center, but we want to add an additional position into the right wing. That also says very convincing. So why don't we give Tim Stutzla a little bit more versatility here, and let's say we love you at center, but every once in a while we might think about moving you to the wing, get Claude Giroux to take some draws, things like that. Pretty nuanced approach, pretty realistic, I would say as well. We want to send you to the right wing. Does it work? It does work. I can do that. Give me some time to make the full adjustment. No term. Let's give you a month to make this adjustment, Timmy. I believe you can make this change quickly. Let's aim for a month, or let's just do 1 month, and hopefully that he can do that. He says understood. And now I would like to talk about something else. Can I still do a season goal? Yes, I can. We'll give you a season goal of long term, and I want you to have a stat challenge of, where is it, assists, 50 assists for Tim Stutzla. Get his passing up there. I think that makes the most sense. He will be on Brady's line, hopefully giving him some goals. He'll strive for that. And now I will speed up the rest for you guys. Now, one quick thing that I want to note for you guys is that if you do go to on-ice play and discuss the tactics of somebody's game, somebody like Drake Batherson, and we want to say, let's change your play style. This is a 50-50 persuasion, so let's talk about changing your play style. He's not interested at all, but you'll notice it doesn't drop his morale. It doesn't drop his overall. So he says, I've been performing well with my current style. I don't want to change it. You say, okay, no problem, and we'll go in and give him a new season goal or an X factor or something like that. Okay, Shane Pinto is going to be the last guy that I do, and I'm going to go a long-term goal for him, and I already have something that I want to do. Is I want to give him an X factor, and what I'm going to do is quick draw. So for quick draw, you have to win 750 faceoffs. Now Shane Pinto is going to be somebody on this team who's going to be taking, third line shifts, first line penalty kill, and probably second line power play, maybe first line power play if things go wrong. So a guy like Shane Pinto to get 750 faceoff wins, and then what you can do is to give him quick draw, and then all you have to do is that when you go into a game, you send him out there for a defensive zone draw, and he's going to win that like probably 80% of the time, just because of the way that quick draw works. So I think that's a really good thing to remember when you're going through X factors, is that if you have a third line center who doesn't have quick draw that you want to give quick draw to, I think doing that one is a big a change in your game, especially if you go in and watch the games. If you're not watching the games, I don't think it has that big of an impact, but if you are watching them, I think giving somebody quick draw is really nice throughout the season. So you can do this in the NHL, but you can also go to the OHL and do some of this as well. Now this would just take me so long. I'm not going to go through all these guys, and Ottawa doesn't have that many great prospects in the AHL, just because most of their prospects are playing on their NHL roster, so they're not really prospects anymore. But again, if you wanted to take the time, go in, change Tyler Boucher, give me 30 goals in the AHL season, Tyler Boucher, and it's going to improve his his stats in here, his shooting category, or if you want to say, hey, give me a bit more defense, then maybe his defensive category can go up there as well. So that's all for the morale meetings and things like that. A really interesting change. You can give these guys some goals. You will see Allmarka has a goal, Tkachuk has a goal, Timmy has a goal, Claude Giroux has a goal, Thomas Chabot has a goal, Sanderson, Batherson, Pinto, Norris, all these guys have goals. And so at the end of the season, we're going to be able to come in and see whether they hit their goals and whether or not their overall increased because of it. Now, coaching staff, we can go down here and we can see we have an A- coach. That's pretty good for the very start of the just when you start up a simulation. That's pretty good. A B forwards coach as the associate, a C generalist coach, and a D goalie coach. So if I were doing this and like really playing through the entire season, I would go into the coaches here and I would find, like all these guys are B minus, do we want a defensive minded coach? Do we want, and also all this generalist forward stuff, what this means is this is who they teach most. So a forwards coach will only really improve the forwards, a slight increase as well to the defense. So like if you have really strong forward prospects that you just drafted, maybe you should target a forward coach. A generalist will be able to teach both forwards and defensemen. line to increase their overall. And then a defensive coach, let me find one here, will focus, basically a defensive coach will just focus more on the defensemen and increasing them. A veterans coach, we see veterans coaches down here. A veterans coach just means that it's going to lessen the decline of veteran players. So a team like Pittsburgh or Washington, if you want to preserve Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin, you throw a veterans coach and hopefully that will stop the decline. Again, we're not entirely sure how much that works because it's EA, so it could be an entirely broken system, but that's the gist. And same thing with goalies, right? You throw a goalie coach, it's going to improve your development of your goalies. So I would go in, I would find a better goalie coach. I would hire this guy to be my goalie coach. Same thing in the scouting, but again, scouting is a whole another beast, so I'm not going to focus on that in this one. So if we hit the right trigger, you're going to notice the top left of our screen is going to drop down and we can have new conversations. Again, this is just another morale tab. Basically, you can go in and have those conversations that we already had with those players. Nothing to talk about there. Now, the next tab, we hit R1 once again, we can go into the edit lines. This is where the magic happens, folks. We see the edit lines screen, and now we have to decide who is playing on what line with our players. You can make the head coach edit the lines if you want to, and for this video I probably will, but generally I would say turn this off and then you edit the lines yourself. You know better than the computer for the most part. I mean, there are times when you're doing the simulation, for some reason your lines aren't just working. What you can do is you can click in the left stick. I'm not sure what it is on Xbox, but if you click L3, you click in the left stick on PS5, you get a bunch of things that pop up. You can scratch a player, you can do the head coach preferred lines, which are the lines that we are in right now, or you can make some roster moves to bring somebody up to your team or send somebody down. So if all else fails, I tend to just go in here, head coach preferred lines, and these are the lines that we're going to run with. So now you want to keep in mind when you're looking at your edit lines, on the right, and like kind of right in the middle of your screen, but on the right side of the lines, you're going to see a 0 on all of my lines. Ideally, we want something like a +5 on our lines. A +5 is the highest plus you can get. It means these three guys, they are in tune with each other, and their overall is basically increased as if Tim Stützle is playing as a 93, Claude Giroux is playing as a 92, and Brady Tkachuk is playing as a 94. That's a very strong line, but what did it do to my second line? We see here now they have -1 overall. David Perron only playing as an 83, Drake Batherson playing as an 84, and Josh Norris playing as an 84. Now, what if we move Josh to the center? It's going to help us out. So you want players in their correct position. Drake Batherson as a center, it's going to drop the line chemistry to -1, but Drake Batherson's a right winger. So if we put Josh Norris in the center, a natural centerman, it gives us a 0. Now, that doesn't always work, right? Like maybe a guy like Shane Pinto, see, he's a centerman, but if he plays the right wing on this line, it gives it a 0. And similarly, Drake Batherson, even though he's usually a right winger, he can play the center on the third line. So it doesn't make sense, right? Like if Tim Stützle, Claude Giroux, and Brady Tkachuk all played second line time, I wonder if they would still get a +5. They might, just because they have, just because the X factors, right? X factors are king in the chemistry world. So if you have players with X factors, play them with each other if you want to. That's going to help your chemistry on your lines. If they don't have X factors, it's really tough to find chemistry. Like, I'm going to look for guys with better chemistry here on the second line. Nobody really likes our second line. So all I'm doing is I clicked in. So let me show you guys that again. So I click right stick into Josh Norris. I forget that I'm like doing a tutorial, basically. A lot of people are watching this, they've never played franchise mode before. So here's what we're doing. We're clicking in the right stick on a player. That's going to be able to bring up his overall, his potential, the role that he's listed as. So Josh Norris is a second liner for us, so him playing second line time makes sense. If we click R1 one time, we can see his individual stats, how good of a shooter he is, how good of a defensive player he is, how good of a skater he is, things like that. This is really important as well, because some players are horrible defensively, but they have like 5-star shooting, so their overall is only like 83. But if you play them on the power play, maybe you'll be able to get like a 30-40 goal season out of them. There are some weird anomalies, okay? Now, if we click the right the right bumper once again, we can see his chemistry. So the coach is very satisfied with him, but we look at the line 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the bottom right. We see the scheme fit. He fits mostly on the first and the third line. The second line, he doesn't fit too well, which is a shame because he's listed as a second line player for us. Now, if we wanted to find somebody who does fit that, we can just click the right trigger on PlayStation. and that's going to move us through the line. So if you have a mental picture of the lines in your head, where we have on the left-hand side, we have David Perron. In the center, we have Josh Norris as our second line center, and as our second line right winger, we have Drake Batherson. Now your mental picture, you go down, now we're in the third line. So these are third line players. Ridley Gregg is here, Shane Pinto is in the center, and Michael Amadio is on the right wing. And now we're on the fourth line. We have Nick Cousins playing left wing. Noah Gregor is playing in the center, and on the right, we have Zach McEwen. So Noah Gregor is really the only other guy who fits these lines, and still we can't get a plus. Now, if you play him on the third line, we do see a plus. So you just fiddle around with these lines, try to find the best chemistry to player ratio. Like if we wanted to put Michael Amadio on the first line, like he is in the real world type of a thing, this would give us a +1, and then maybe Tim Sluice on the second line. No, we don't get a plus. So realistically, you got to mess with it yourself and try to find the best lines to suit you. This coach, it seems like they don't really love this coach. So the way that the chemistry works is that it's by the coach's scheme. So our coach currently is mostly balanced everything, which is why people aren't loving him. But if you get a forwards coach, some forwards really love certain coaches, some forwards really hate certain coaches. But because we have a balanced coach, now if we hit the right trigger, we can go to our defense and we can see what do the lines look defensively. So Thomas Chabot and Jake Sanderson are here. If we play them on the same line, they're going to get a -2 because their scheme fit is different. So Jake Sanderson prefers a pinch cycle, whereas Thomas Chabot prefers a pinch balance. So again, if you wanted to prioritize one of these players, you could go into the coaches and find a coach that has a pinch cycle or a pinched balance to give these guys a little bit of a better opportunity. Now, if we put JBD up there, it's going to stay the same. If we put Nick Jensen up there, it's going to stay the same. So really, we don't have much chemistry on this team. Now, if we hit the left trigger button, we can go to see our power play. What does our power play look like? It looks like this. Okay, that looks like a pretty strong power play. You will see we have a +5 overall chemistry to our power play, which is a very nice sight. And then we can go to our second power play by holding the right trigger button and then moving in between this first and second power play. We will see this is a 0. Okay, it's all right. We can go to our 4-man power play and then our second line 4-man power play. Now, if we hold the left trigger button again, we can see the penalty kill. And who's on our penalty kill? Shane Pinto was taking first line penalty kill time, which is exactly what I wanted. So I'm not going to change this. If we hold the right trigger button again, there are 3 lines of penalty kill. So make sure your defensemen are spread out on the penalty kill however you want. And then we go to the 3-man penalty kill when we have a 5-on-3 or a 4-on-3 or something like that. These will be the lines that jump out first, second, and third. So if we hold left trigger again, we can see the extra lines. This is going to be our 4-on-4 and our 3-on-3 lines. Again, if you wanted to prioritize somebody, you can put them on the first line to get them out there sooner. And then if we go to the 3-on-3 lines, these are going to be our overtime lines. 3-on-3 lines are very important. And you will notice Artem Zub is here. This is because the AI, for some reason, thinks that the defenseman on the 3-on-3 has to be a right-handed defenseman first. So it will prioritize right-handed defenseman. What we can do to change this very fast is we can click the square button. That's going to get us to shift between these positions really fast. But what else we can do is once we're highlighted over Artem Zub, is we can go right, click your left stick to the right a couple of times, and you can go over and see we're highlighted over Jake Sanderson now, who's the right defenseman on one of the other lines. And we can say, okay, we want Jake Sanderson to start out there 3-on-3. So we click X on PS5, A on X on PS5, A on Xbox, and then you can put Jake Sanderson in there instead. And then what you can do is you can go to the 3-on-2 or 3-on-3 second line, and you can click in on a player, and what you're going to see is they are going to show me the right defenseman, but we don't want a right defenseman. We want Thomas Chabot to jump in there, so we hold the left trigger, and we move up or down these lines. Like maybe we want another forward out there. You can do that as well, but we're going to stick with one defenseman, and we can click X on Thomas Chabot to substitute him into those lines and change it just in the current line. If you change in all lines, you will have Thomas Chabot playing twice because Thomas Chabot and Artem Zub are partners on 5-on-5, Thomas Chabot will get subbed in for Artem Zub in every position that Artem Zub is in. So Thomas Chabot will be on the first line power play and the first line and the second line power play, and he will be twice on the even strength. That just doesn't make sense. It's not going to let you do that. So just change in the current line. Thomas Chabot comes in to play 3-on-3 time. And then again, if you wanted to change this again, all you have to do is click X to substitute or A, and then we see we want Artem Zub in there instead of Jacob Bernard Docker, and we just change in the current line. So that's how you change players in between your lines. Now we can go to the extra attacker. We have Brady and Tim Stützle here, but these guys are on the same line. So do we really want these two guys to be our extra attackers? Because what if their line is out? Who's the computer going to send out then? So what I like to do is I like to keep one of these guys. I guess we'll throw Tim Stützle as our first guy, and then I'm going to move it to somebody who's on the second line. So I click X to substitute, and I want, let's get Drake Batherson as our next extra attacker out there. Just changing the current lines. Again, if you changed in all lines, you would have, sorry, let me just go over it. We'll go to even strength. You would have Drake Batherson playing on the first line and the second line, and Brady Tkachuk would be scratched. So that wouldn't make any sense. Now, the way you change players on this screen is, again, the same thing. For a quick swap, just click the square button for PS5, X for Xbox, and you can move Brady wherever you want him. We want him to play second line time instead of first line time. You just click square and you move him for David Perron. Again, if you wanted really Greg to play second line time instead, you just click square and you move him up to that second line instead there. So that's what the edit line screen looks like. Now, if we click R3, we can go to roster moves. Let's go to roster moves just so I can show you guys this. If you have a prospect in here who you want to try out in the NHL, you can hold the L2 and look at in the system. These are all the prospects that Ottawa has that are signed to the AHL. Say we wanted, I don't know, Philip Daus to come up to the roster. We can just press X on him to send him up to the NHL roster. Or if we wanted to send a bunch of guys, like we want to send Philip Daus, we click square to send him up. And then we also want to sign Cole Reinhardt. We want to bring him up to the roster, and Carter Yakimchuk, excuse me. Then we can do that, and then you can click X to finish, but oh no, you're going to have too many players in your NHL system. So what do you have to do? You have to go back up to the NHL, find 3 players you're going to send down, and click square on or X on all of them. So Gaudette is going to go down, Clevin and Hamonic are all going to go down, and then what you do is you click X or A to finish that, and now you can make that move if you wanted to. So that's what that looks like, and that's how you move players up and down your roster. You come into edit lines, you click R3, you go to roster moves, and you can do that. Now, I hear you asking, what if I want to scratch somebody, but I want to bring somebody into the lineup at the same time? I'm so glad you asked. Let's see, Zach McEwen is not doing so well. I can click the right bumper. So like if you're playing Call of Duty, you would throw a grenade with it, or if you inverted your controls, you would shoot. The right bumper here, R1 on PS5, the right bumper on Xbox, and I can see who my scratched players are. So if I wanted to get Adam Gaudette in there instead of Zach McEwen, all I have to do is click my right bumper or my R1 on PS5, and then click X or A on Xbox for Adam Gaudette, and Zach McEwen gets thrown out of the lineup and Adam Gaudette gets in there. A super good switch that they did last year. It makes it way more efficient to edit your lines, and it's something that I actually like. Now, if you click the start button on PS5, you will flip to the AHL lines, and these are the exact same as the NHL lines. Looks like we have a bit of better chemistry here, so that is nice, but we're really only worried about the NHL in this one. These are the lines we're going to roll with. So that was a lot, boys. There's still so much more to go. The franchise mode is just so full of just a bunch of information at a time. If we say view lines, this is going to show me the lines of every NHL team in the league. So we see Anaheim has Carter Gauthier, Ryan Strome, and Frank Vetrano on their first line. Their second line looks like this. Their third line, their fourth line. Remember, this is preseason, so they're not going to be having their actual NHL lines out there. We can flip to their defensemen, who's on their defensive pairings, who is in net for them tonight, right? All these things. And this is really important when it comes to playoff time, when you want to scout out who the other teams are. Like, if we want to scout, I don't know, who's playing on Detroit tonight, or we're playing Detroit in the first round, which is very likely. You know, we want to see who do they have out there, who's on what line, can we match up better against them? We can look at their defense. Do they have the big boys, Moritz Seider and Simon Edvinsson together? Yes, they do. Okay, how are we going to beat that? Do we throw our top line at them, or do we try to, mix it up a little bit? And then who's their goalie? Okay, that might be maybe Cam Talbot. Maybe that's a bit of a soft spot for them. We can find a way past him, right? These are really important things when you get to the playoffs and things like that. For the regular season, I don't really touch this tab though. Now, another way to get to roster moves if you want it is right here. Edit lines, view lines, and then roster moves. So that just looks the exact same as I showed you guys a couple of minutes ago. The injury report. So any injuries at all on your team or on any other team, you can see through this. So if it thing pops up and it's and you're if you say you're in the playoffs and you look at the view lines and the team that you have, you're like, wait, I thought Steven Stamkos was on this team, but you don't see him in the lines. You can come to the injury report and you can go over to Nashville and you can say, wait, Stamkos, he's injured for 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks to get wins on this team in the playoffs, right? So something like that. It's important for that, but really it's kind of a niche thing. Now, for progress reports here, this is going to be more useful at the end of the season. It's just going to show us how many points each player was modified by. So this column right here in the middle that says MOD, you're going to be able to see how many points each player was modified by, and that's basically how much their stats went up. So like if you have like 54, that means a player, 54 of their stats increase, basically. Like they had like 5 increase to face off, 6 increase to shot accuracy. That's 11 increase in total, right? And that's all that shows right there. Again, something that I'll show you guys at the end. And then captains and jerseys, you can mess around with this if you want. You can switch, Claude Giroux is our assistant captain, but say I don't want him to be, and I want Tim Stützle to be our assistant captain. Now, this might change the morale of the players. No, it doesn't look like it will, but again, that's something that you could do if you wanted to. I'll leave it how it is though. And also same thing with jerseys. The way I change the assign alternate, just at the bottom of your screen, you can see the triangle on PS5 or Y on Xbox to take out his alternate. And then if we want to give it to somebody else, triangle again. With the captaincy, I think it's square. Yes, it is. It's square for captaincies. So we want to take the captaincy from Brady. We want to give it to Tim Stützle. It's square for both of those things. Let's back out though. And also one more thing quickly before we do back out. If I wanted to change Tim Stützle's jersey to like number 9, like he wore in Germany or something like that, all you do is click X on the player, or A if you're on Xbox, and you can change their jersey to anything you want that isn't retired by the organization or that somebody doesn't already have. But if somebody did have it, you can switch their jersey. So let's say I wanted to give Tim Stützle number 71. It just means that if I click X right now, Ridley Gregg and Tim Stützle are going to swap jersey numbers, right? That's all that means. Nobody can wear 99, of course. And then all these numbers over here are numbers that are retired by the Sens organization. Now, I don't think you can retire a number yourself unless they have decided to change that. But it's something that in our Winnipeg Jets series, if you watch that, we had jerseys retired where I would go in every single year and make sure nobody was wearing certain jersey numbers. I won't say them right now to spoil it, but they were legends of our Winnipeg Jets franchise mode. Now, if we click R1 once again, we're going to go to the trade screen. Trade screen is very important. We can propose a trade to any other team in the league. But if this looks a little daunting, don't worry, because if we back out of this really quickly, we can find a trade. Now, let's say we wanted somebody on this team. They're making a little bit too much. They don't have a clause or anything like that. Somebody like Josh Norris, man. This guy's making $7.95 million. Maybe I'm the GM and I'm like, I got to free up some money. I want to make a big move. But what could I get for Josh Norris? All you have to do is come over, highlight his name when you're in the find trade screen, and you click X on him. And then you can either find a trade or find a trade on the open block. Open block just means it's not going to worry about other teams' trading blocks. So let's find a trade on the open block with L1. If you wanted to just find a trade only using trade blocks, you could do triangle. But let's do L1 to get some more options in there. And these are every single team that is willing to make a trade for Josh Norris and has the cap space to do so. So Buffalo was interested in him, Chicago was interested in him, Philadelphia, and these guys, they just want to give us some picks for him. And if you just wanted to dump some salary, maybe this is something that you would be looking at. Jonathan Lecarmacki, there we go. We could trade him to Vancouver and pick up a prospect or something like that. We could get Braden Yeager, the newest Winnipeg Jet, I think, with that Rutger McGordy trade, of course. These are all trades that other teams are willing to do with us. You can decline them. You can accept the trade. If you want to accept it right here, you can do that. Or you can edit the trade, go in and change some things. So let's say I'm looking at, I don't know, this trade here, Josh Norris and Braden Yeager. I want to edit the trade a little bit, make it a little bit more in my favor if I can. And the way that I'm going to do that, I don't know. Instead of 2/3, sorry. I just assume that people know these things. So we're going to look at the trade value and all this stuff in a second. Hang on one second. So they had 2/3, right? Yeah, so they had 2/3. So the way that we take something off the proposed trade is you just click square on it. You can remove it. Again, like all these controls, like which buttons to use for things, they're all on the bottom of your screen right there. You'll see it says select, back, remove, retain salary, things like that, and we can look at all these. So if I remove both of these by clicking square, and I say, would you give me a first instead? Now they're probably going to say no to this, and the reason I know they're going to say no is if you look at the bottom, it says trade value. Right above proposed trade, it says trade value, and the value is not in our favor. You will see their bar is a lot bigger than our bar. They're packing more than we are. All right, so this is not a fair deal. So the way that we change this is we have to give them more value for the deal, or we have to take away some of their value. Now the value is in our favor and we can add more things to the deal. So that's what the trade screen is all about. Now, let's say I'm going to Chicago and I want to make a deal, a big deal. First of all, I clicked the wrong thing. We hold R2 to move in between things. So we can look at their draft picks. We can look at the goalies that are matching the block. These are goalies that they are interested in giving away. They don't have any. They don't want to give away any goalies. If we move up by... Sorry, hang on. If we move up by 1, holding the L2 button and going up by 1, we will see the skaters matching a block. They don't have any skaters matching the block. But if we go into their all skaters here, they don't want to give away anybody. But let's say we want Connor Bedard. Now, this is not going to happen. You're not going to be able to trade for him. He is a full bar of value. Unless you have McDavid or McKinnon or somebody else who is also franchise, you're not going to be able to trade for Connor Bedard. But just saying... Just showing that I wanted to show you guys this is like I could give them probably anything they wanted. So all these green names are players that they actively want on their team. So if you put Brady Tkachuk in there, right, for Connor Bedard, this would not go through even close, man. Look, we don't even have half of a bar and they are at a full bar still. So we are not even close. Now, what if we wanted to retain salary? So what does retain salary mean? It means that for the duration of his deal, we take this amount of money off of his contract so that he only makes, like, so if we wanted to take away 50%, we wanted to retain 50% salary. What that means is that for the next 4 seasons that Brady Tkachuk is under with the current contract that he has, we are taking 50% of his salary so that he only makes $4.102 million with the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, if you're really close to a deal, with something and you retain some salary, something like that could work. We've done that in the past where we wanted to retain salary, or we wanted the other team to retain some salary because we were so close to the cap that we couldn't afford to take on their full contract, and we get the other team to retain 50% or 25% or 10%, and it's just enough that we can take the player onto our team. And it means that if the other team is retaining more salary, you have to give them a little bit more to make them okay with retaining that salary. But if you're retaining the salary, it means the other team has to give you a little bit more as well. So it works in both ways. Now, just looking at the values in and of themselves. So this bar right here shows the value. Anything that's like a quarter of the way is somebody really, really high in value. Now, Tim Stützle, he's got about a half bar, I would say. But Brady, Jake Sanderson, Carter Yakimchuk, and Thomas Chabot all have roughly around a quarter of a bar. You can see Brady is a little bit above these other two guys. Jake Sanderson is like, it's like a ladder, right? You see Tim Stützle is like 3 rungs maybe above Brady, but Brady's really only 1 rung on the ladder above Jake Sanderson, who's only really 1 rung of the ladder above Yakimchuk, who's only really 1 rung of the bar ahead of like Thomas Chabot. Again, same type of thing. But then we get down to Norris and Batherson. These guys have pretty similar value. Zub is maybe 1 step lower than both of them. Pinto is like 1 step lower than Zub, but then Pinto and Greg are pretty much the same. So you can play around with the value a little bit. Value is not always correlated with overall. Value is, taking somebody's value into account. It takes their overall, but also their age and their potential. So a guy like Carter Yakimchuk, who just got drafted in the first round, he's a 73 overall, so a really low overall, but he's only 18 years old and he has medium elite value. Medium elite is the second, not quite. Medium elite is the second highest tier of potential you can have. It goes franchise, which is guys like Connor Bedard, McDavid, McKinnon, Makar, those guys. If you have a franchise player, that guy is going to shoot up in overall so fast, it's crazy. If you have an elite player, they will grow very steadily, right? We've seen elite players grow from like 80 to 84, 85 medium elite players in like 1 season, but sometimes they falter a little bit, and especially some guys who are like low elite, maybe they only grow, to like an 82, 83 at 18 years old. So things like that are all equated into the trade value. But that is pretty much everything that there is to know about the trading screen. Again, if if there's anything I'm missing, you can throw some comments down there and I can take a look at them and answer some questions that anybody has. But yeah, that's pretty much everything for the trading screen. Now, if you wanted to find a trade for somebody else, let's go over to a team like, I don't know, let's just Montreal Canadiens, okay? They have some good players on this team, and we are very interested in somebody like Alex Newhook. Okay, we can click on his name and we can click the L1 to find a trade on the open block. Now, what would we have to give up for Alex Newhook, Jacob Bernard-Docker, a 5th, and Tyler Kleven? That's a deal that I would probably be willing to do. A Lassie Thompson and Nick Jensen in a 7th round pick. Again, that's something else that I would probably be willing to do, right? So you can go in and you can look at some trades for some players and on other teams as well. Now, next tab down is the draft class. This is going to be really important for your future. Obviously, this is where all the players who are going to be drafted are. You can go through them. And again, if you have no idea, you haven't done any drafting, you can just look at the central scouting and you can take the next best player available. I might have a video out about scouting, but if I don't, there are a million other videos that show you how to scout all the top 200 players, and those videos are all really good. The draft board, this is just where you are projected to pick in here. So we have a 1st, a 2nd, a 3rd, a 5th, a 6th, and a 7th in this year's draft. Good to know. And when we get closer to that draft, it's going to show us like which pick number is that. Oh, that's the 1st round, pick number 22 or something like that. Now the player search is just going to be for you to look. Whoa, what the heck is this? EA, what have you done? So this looks the exact same, but the screen just looks a little weird. So if we click into these credentials here, we can, if you know the player's name, you can search them by name. Like I want to look for Connor McDavid. No worries, I can do that instantly here and look at Connor McDavid, and then I can just press triangle and find him exactly where he is. Maybe he got traded and you want to look at and try to find where he is in the league because he got traded from the Oilers or his contract expired and he got signed in free agency somewhere. You want to find where he is. You can go there and look for McDavid. But if you didn't know exactly who we were looking for, say okay, I want to find a forward who is like a second line type player, and I want them to be a sniper maybe. We need some goals on the roster. Left-handedness, I don't really care about. X factors, I would like them to have one or more X factors. Their age, maybe I want, like you can just go in, like you're searching for scholarly articles. If you're in school, you know all about this, right? You just refine your searches in here. Their potential, I don't really care about their potential. Don't care about their salary. Shooting, let's say that we want their shooting to be at least 3.5 star shooting, and then you can go into their overall, like you can go into their rating. We will see here their overall between 36 and 99. No, we want this between like 85, 84 and 99, and then you can search for the player. So this is going to show me a player that is between the overall of 84 and 89, has at least 3.5 star shooting, and is between the ages of 17 and 31 and has at least one X factor. I'm not sure if anybody's going to show up here. Yes, there are 5 players in the league with this. Thomas Hertl, Troy Terry, and Owen Tippett are some of these names. But again, these guys, like Hertl doesn't have he has a no move clause. Kevin Fiala has a no move clause. You cannot trade for those players. But Patrick Laine, Owen Tippett, and Troy Terry are all guys you could think about. And so that is something that could come in handy if you need it to. Trading blocks of each team, again, the trading block of our team, first of all. These are guys you want to trade away or picks you want to trade away. And then surplus/wants. These are things that teams are going to offer you things according to these categories. So this is not really something that I touch that much, but we want picks, right? We want all these current picks, so we throw them all on. Any picks come my way, I want them. And I also want all future picks. If you want to give me a first for any of these things I have on the block, fair enough. What else do we want in exchange for some of the people we put on the block? I would like a second line forward. That makes sense. Defensively, what do we want? Depth defense. I think Ottawa needs some depth defense, so let's look at depth defensemen. And then for goalies, we need a backup goalie for the most part, or a 4th line forward. We need a 4th line forward also. These are things that we want. Now, the next thing down is the surplus is things that you want to trade away. So all of that's stuff that we want to trade away. Wants, so sorry, I mixed it up, boys. I'm sorry. This is surplus. This is things that we would be willing to add to a deal to trade. So we would be willing to add first, seconds, thirds, future round picks, and then either a second, a top 6, or 4th line forward. things that we're willing to add to a deal to trade them away if somebody's looking to pick up David Perron, say. Now, things that we want is, who do we want on the roster? We want anybody, basically. We want all picks, all this stuff. You can refine this again, just like the player search, the same type of interface. So we want a forward who's a first line forward for these players, between the ages of 17 and 39, something, whatever you wanted to do, you could do that there and change these categories accordingly. And again, to remove these things from the block, just hit that square button and you can add anybody you want onto the trade block. Say you wanted to trade for some reason, I don't know, Shane Pinto. You can put him on the block because his gambling addiction has gotten the best of him. Put him on the block and, get him out of here. Send him to Las Vegas, right? You can do that if you wanted to. We're going to leave David Savard on the block just because. And then you can browse other people's trading blocks. Again, this is a way you can see who's on the block or what is on the block. Since we're in preseason, there's really not going to be anything. But if you wanted to, you could go in and you could see these guys have some prospects here. Buffalo has some prospects. Calgary has a depth defenseman, it looks like. Chicago, not with anything, right? You can just go in and you can look at this all the way. Another way you can look at that is by going into proposed trade screen and going into the other team and seeing who they are interested in giving away. Skaters matching the block. These are players they're interested in giving away, and then you hold the start button and you can go down to Boston. Who are they interested? All these players, and this will show you more players than the browsing trade block will, or at least it will give you a list that you can see more easily. If we go to Buffalo, look at all these guys on the block. When we went to Buffalo last time, they didn't have that many players. Calgary with that one guy. Carolina, so many players on the block, right? It's just a better list, an easier way to do that. Now, if we click R1 again, this has been a lot of information, so if you're still here, I appreciate you sticking around, and now it's going to get a little crazy. We're going to go to contracts, and this is where things have really changed. So Ottawa, we don't have a lot of money going into next season, but Claude Giroux wants an extension. You can tell he wants an extension because it says yes right here. If it said no, let's just see if anybody says no. It doesn't look like it. Everybody wants an extension with Ottawa, huh? They like the family atmosphere in Ottawa. Well, whatever. Let's say Claude Giroux, he wants an extension, so that's great with us. We can offer him a contract extension. And this screen looks entirely different. He's asking for $7 million, but we only have $5.115 million to give him. So, because, Ottawa is cap strong. So maybe this was a bad team to do it with, but I can't go back now because I've already been here for, an hour talking to the screen. So we're going to give him everything that we can. And so we're going to give him a 5.115 deal. Oh my gosh, I just went too far again. My bad boys, 1 sec. And we will see in the bottom there, his team interest, he's not too interested in the organization, but he is interested in the contract at least a little bit. Now, what if we give him a clause? Let's give him a no movement clause. Oh, look at that. You see that interest, that contract, jumps up a little bit. If we give him a no trade clause, he's not as interested in a no trade clause. A modified no trade clause, not that interested. A no movement and a no trade clause, not that interested. And a no clause, again, same type of interest. So the only way that we can get him more interested in this deal is by giving him a no movement clause. No movement clause means this player cannot move from your team, either going to the AHL. They basically have to stay on your NHL team, I'm pretty sure. If you want a no trade clause, it just means you cannot trade this player to another team, but they can move up and down through your organization. A modified no trade clause for a guy like Claude Giroux would be a 4-team no trade clause. It means if we wanted to trade him, we would ask him to submit a list of 4 teams that he is willing to go to, and we would have to trade him to one of those teams. And then a no movement clause plus a modified no trade clause means he's staying on the NHL roster, but we can trade him to a team if he gives us that 4-team list. And then no clause, he's just normal. So that's what it is. And it's going to change the interest of players. No move clause is going to trade it the most or change the interest the most of that contract, but there are other ways to do it. So if we change this to reduced here, the clause structure to reduced from full to reduced, this means that in his first year, he's going to have a no move clause, but in his second year, he's going to have a no move clause and a modified no trade clause, which means we can trade him to a team if he gives us a list of 16 teams that he doesn't want to go to, 16 teams that he would be willing to go to. Now we can move our left stick to the right here, and we can see he no longer has that no move clause in the second year, but he still has that modified no trade clause. Or if we go to 81%, he has a 20 team no trade list, so he can only go to 12 teams. If we keep moving that up a little bit more, 87%, he has a 24 team no trade list. So again, these are just ways that the player can change their experience, and more options, in my opinion, is better. So I'm happy that EA decided to do this, but we will keep it as full for right now. No move clause, 2 years. But do I think he's going to sign this deal? I'm not sure. We're giving him $2 million less than he's asking for. Something you could do is the 85% trick. I'm not sure if it works in this game like it did in the former games, but you could find out. And all the 85% trick is he's asking for $7.025 million. You take 85% of $7.25 million and you offer him that. So for Claude Giroux, 85% would be 5.97125. So $5.9725 million. We could not do that because we don't have the cap space next year to do so. So we could always free up some cap space from somebody else, move somebody else, and then give him a little bit more money. Or we can start a negotiation. If we click triangle right here, we will start a negotiation, a new feature in the EA world. What do we want to do this? I'm undecided about an extension. I think it's best we look at the terms you're proposing before I make my commitment. Fair enough. I appreciate your openness to this discussion. Your presence is a key part of our organization. We're ready to put together an offer that reflects our mutual interest in your future here. This is risky, so we're not sure about it. Two-way, we're open to discussing a two-way contract. That's something you would consider. We're definitely not going to do that. So it seems like we can't really charm him. Now, I'm not sure what the downside is if we try it. So let's try it out and see. Oh, it does say failing the charm will make it more difficult to persuade them. So why don't we do this on somebody who's let's stay neutral, huh? I appreciate. Let's take a look at what you are wanting here. Sure. Where would you like to start? Let's discuss the terms of your contract. We're prepared to negotiate an offer that will be beneficial to both sides. Let me share more about our organization and why it would be a great fit for you. So let's see if we can't charm him a little bit. He says, your organization isn't my first choice, but I'm willing to hear you out. Okay. Our smaller market size has unique advantages. Let me explain more about how this could be a fit to you. Or team status, being a hopeful team, we're on the rise and looking for players who want to make a real impact. Hear me out on how you can be a pivotal part of our journey. I think this one might be a little bit better. Let's do team status. You'd be pivotal to our journey. Aiming to be on a contending team is critical for me. If we're not aligned on this, it's a serious concern. Well, that's not great. Okay, well, okay, we don't want to go that route though because it's a little risky. Let's say organization. Let me see if there's anything else on the organization. The market. Would you be interested in hearing the market? This is also risky. Okay, so maybe now is just not the time to talk to Claude Giroux. He wants to play in a large market. He also, I don't know. He wants to play in a large market, and also he's not happy with the fact that we are not a contending team. So not a great start with our Claude Giroux negotiations. But I have seen some things. All right, so let's say we want to keep you for 2 years. And look at this. Now he's super interested. It's great that we're in agreement on a 2-year contract that works well for me in terms of my salary. My base level asking price is $7.02 million per season. Now, could we negotiate here? It says it would be very convincing. Can we try to find a more team-friendly salary here? Given where we are in these discussions, I'm open to negotiating the salary. Can you specify the decrease? Okay. What about 500 may be a little pricey, huh? We need to decrease the proposed salary by $350K. That would drop it to, like, you could do the math here, right? If we want to decrease the salary by $350K, that would drop it to about 6.6 something, and then the 85% might work a little bit more. Let's say we want to drop it $350K. Would this be acceptable? I appreciate the discussion, but I'd be more inclined to accept the offer. It included a clause. Can we discuss that? Okay. Yeah, we would give you a clause. We'd be willing to entertain a clause for sure. Which type of clause are you willing to offer? Let's do a no move clause, 2-year no move clause for Claude Giroux. I think it makes sense. No trade clause. We can do a modified no trade clause, modified no move. Let's just say no movement clause within this contract. What are you saying, brother? What is the structure of the clause? Full. We want a full thing here. I prefer a clause with the most protection possible. You have a clause with the most protection possible. No movement clause for 2 years, bro. Okay, and then look at this, boys. He says The discussion is shaping up well. Let's move forward to the next steps and I'll be ready to give you my final answers too. But it says we can negotiate and it can be very convincing still. So can we drop his salary even more? Given these discussions, I'm interested. Can we drop it 250K more down here? It's shaping up well. Let's move forward with the next steps. Okay, now he only wants 6.425. It's very convincing again if we give him a little, if we try to negotiate again. Is this a little bit cheese here? Can we do another 250K? What does he say to it? Shaping up well. Okay, let's drop it again. See, this might be a little bit... But this is something you could do. If you wanted this guy really, really heavily on your team, another 250K. He's down with it. So let's just continue now. 5.925 million for the term of 2 years. I'm ready to proceed. Or we could just say that's it for now, maybe, and then we could we? Okay, hang on. I'm kind of interested in this. That's it for now. Thank you for your time. What does he say? Now, if I go in and I look at his offer extension, what is it showing me? It's showing, oh, but it is still showing me the two years, $7 million. So it doesn't change it in here. That's just another way to do the contract negotiations, I guess. Okay, fair enough. Okay, guys, so I whittled him down to like 2 years at 5.3 something million dollars, something like that. So we can table the contract offer for like 1 day, and then we can come back in the next day and see what he says. So look at this, guys. We can offer him a contract extension of 2 years at $5.075 million, and he'd be willing to do this. So he took a $2 million decrease just with us negotiating his contract with him. I didn't look at the market size or anything like that, but if you wanted to, that's something you could do. So we can offer this contract to him, and he says, I'm not going to rush into a decision on this extension. I'll take a few nights to give it a thought. There you go. So that is what the contracts can look like. You can give them clauses. You can give them, you can go into negotiations. You can actually talk to the player now, which is kind of interesting, although I'm not sure how impactful it will be, but that is something that you can actually consider. And then if we look at pending free agents here, we'll look at free agents and pending free agents. Pending free agents just means this player is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. Being a free agent just means that any team can offer you a contract. Now, who are the current free agents in the game? We will see guys over here. And again, free agency has completely changed as well. The organization interest is now a big thing. See, Justin Schultz, right? Justin? Yeah, Justin Schultz is not too interested in an organization, but somebody like Tyler Johnson really is interested. So if we wanted like a fourth line center type of guy who'd be willing to take 950K from us, he loves the organizational fit. And if we wanted to give him the contract, like he's not too interested in 850K. Well, if we give him 900K, he's more interested. 1 year 900K for a guy like Tyler Johnson. We don't want to give him a clause or anything like that. But we can offer that contract if we wanted to. So we'll just send out that offer just because to show you guys that it's actually going to work. And that's free agency for you. And then the settings and stuff like this is just stuff if you want to see box scores is something really interesting. I'm going to simulate probably a month or so, and then I'll show you guys the box scores. Also, I'll come back to you if Claude Giroux accepts our offer. But let me just simulate into the regular season now. So here we are. Claude Giroux, a few days later, he comes in and he says, I accept your offer enthusiastically. You met my contract clause expectations closely, and this was an easy deal to sign. So when I was showing you guys that little bar, when I had the 2 years, 5.115 million, because that was the most that we could offer him, he wasn't that interested in it. But when we talk to him and we start the negotiations, we click triangle and we whittle him down slowly by 250K, by 350K, I think it might be a little unfair. Like, I don't know if I'll use it in my GM modes, but if you wanted to use it, you are more than free to do so. It is a feature they added into this game for a reason. You can do that to give yourself a little bit better contracts. And Tyler Johnson also accepts our contract here for the to be a fourth liner on the roster. So that is interesting. Now we're going to see a lot of trades coming in, right? If you wanted to free up some money, Jensen's on the team for $4 million for the next 2 years. Say if we wanted to free that up, we could accept this offer and Dallas would give us 2 third-round picks for it, right? These are things that you got to think about as the GM of your team. The end, okay, a new conversation I started with Tim Stützle. That's because he probably has become a center right winger now. After a lot of effort, I managed to learn how to play right wing. I'm ready to contribute effectively in this role. Look forward to it, Tim Stützle. Appreciate your willingness to change your position up a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to simulate through 41 games of the season. I'm not going to change the lines. I'm not going to do anything like that. I'm just going to let the team rock how it is. If you, of course, if you wanted to, you could go in and you could change the lines and you could look at things and you could, you could jump in there and manually do it yourself. I will edit the lines though, just to make sure that our best team is out there. And something that I find interesting is that because of preseason, I think, look at this. Drake Batherson is now up to an 87. Before, he was only an 85. Shane Pinto has already gotten the X Factor, the quick draw X Factor. So when he's out there, he is winning so many draws. Does this make sense, EA, or is this another bug? This is a huge bug. He's only won 50 face-offs instead of the 750 he's supposed to, but he's already got that X Factor, so I do not care. I will take advantage of that all the time. Maybe next year we give the quick draw to Josh Norris. Who knows, right? But Tim Stützle now as that right center right winger, he can play that right side, so that's nice to see. Anybody on defense get any upgrades here? Thomas Chabot is now up to 87. He was 86 to start the year. Artem Zub is up to 85. He was 84 to start the year. So our guys are already growing, and I think a lot of that is because at the start of the video we did their preseason things to make it so that their offensive and defensive awareness go up. So here we are at the halfway point of the season, and your Ottawa Senators are 14, 18, and 9. Love to see it. The boys are playing exactly how I expected them to, but it's interesting. Now that we have a bunch of stats up here, we can see our goals for per game is 2.94, 21st in the league. So that's not great. We got to get that up. Our goals against per game is 3.41. That's awful. We need to bring that down. And then our power play percentage, though, 17.3%, the 11th best power play in the league. Looks like power plays are down. Luckily, in the real world, those Sens are kicking their power play at like second best in the league or something like that. So I love that. Penalty kill, though, is not horrible. Although it is 19th in the league, 81% is not that bad for all things considered. Brady is leading our team in points with 42. We can click R2 and we can keep seeing that. Defenseman is Thomas Chabot with 18. Brady has 18 goals. Claude Giroux has 27 assists. And Linus Ullmark has 11 wins for us. In the league, again, this is so great. You can just click R2 and look around the entire league to see it. McDavid is leading the league with 67 points in 42 games. Behind him, we've got Matthews, McKinnon with 65 and 63 respectively. Sam Reinhart has 62. Mikko Rantanen with 57. JT Miller with 56. I love that you can just see this. Cale Makar is down there as a defenseman with 55 points in 44 games. Good for him doing his thing. We can see the goal leaders in the league now. So the way I'm just controlling this is by moving my right stick over to the right. We can see the goal leaders. Austin Matthews, 35 goals in 44 games. He's on pace for almost 70. Good stuff. Assist leaders. Cale Makar has 50 assists in 44 games, leading the entire league. Goalie wins leaders. That's Thatcher Demko with 28 wins in 39 games played. Good for you. And then if I wanted to click in the right stick to take a look at the entire list of leaders, I can click in the right stick, and that's going to bring me up to this screen where I can take a more in-depth look, and I can look at the teams, the Atlantic Division. So we are at the 7th best team in the Atlantic Division, so we are the 2nd worst. That is very bad. But we can go to the entire league and see where do we sit in the entire league here. Now, we're going to be way down here, but we can also see the best teams in the league, the top 10, the top 15, all this stuff, and then we can see various stats accordingly to these individual teams and things like this. So we are the 28th best team in the league, so we're like, what is that, the 5th worst or something like that? We only have 37 points. We are 14, 18, and 9 with 2.95 goals against average, or goals for per game, but we already knew that. 3.41 goals against average. Our power play at 17%. Our penalty kill at 81%. Not bad. Our home record is okay, 7-7-4, but away we are god awful. Last 10 games, 4-4-2. You can see this for every single team. You can go ahead and look at who are the best penalty killers in the league. It's Dallas, Florida, Tampa, Utah, and Toronto. Who are the best power plays in the league? Look at that, Toronto at 30%. Same with the Avs. These two guys both have 30. Edmonton with 26, and then it's 21%. So really, there's just 3 really strong teams on the power play. Everybody else kind of hovering around that 20-ish% mark. But again, if you wanted to just check out the divisions, the Central Division only, you could do that. If you wanted to look at Atlantic Division only, you could do that. If you wanted to only look at the Pacific or the Metro, you could do that as well. So that's what that looks like. You can also flip it to the AHL by clicking that right stick and going with the North Division. Look at this. Our Belleville Sens are on top of the North Division, so at least we can see a little bit of success in this organization. And now we can go over to the team points. We can start in Belleville if we want, but we can also click that start button to look at the Sens roster. And what do we see here? We've got a couple of guys in that 40-ish range. Josh Norris with 31, Drake Batherson with 28, and David Perron with 27. But we see, look at this, minus 16, minus 14, minus 11. So if I were the GM or the coach, I would be changing this second line instantly. They are minus 15-ish collectively. That is brutal, man. You want to bring up a guy like Shane Pinto, minus 5, a guy like Ridley Gregg who's only on minus 3. Somebody needs to help out that second line. Thomas Chabot is plus 5 on a horrible team, so he's doing his thing out there. Artem Zub is plus 7, so that first line defensively is doing well. Jake Sanderson, though, is minus 17. Maybe something has to be done about that, right? But look at this, Jake Sanderson, we've already seen improvement from him. He's now an 88 overall, and also he has the X factor of quick pick, which allows him to intercept that puck a little bit better. So even though his stats look pretty rough, he only has 12 points, he's a minus 17, he is growing in overall because of his potential, because he has that medium elite potential. His overall is growing despite his abysmal year to start off. All right, so these are things that you just want to keep an eye on as the GM. If we go to goalies, we can see the wins, the losses, the overtime losses. Linus Ullmark, 901 save percentage, 3.29 goals against average. Pretty normal stuff over here for them. We can also take a look only at the rookie skaters, things like that. And we can look around the entire league to take a more in-depth view of the stats and who's doing what for which team, things of that nature. And if you wanted to really go in depth with it, you can go, who is the best guy at taking the puck away in this universe? It's Sidney Crosby, but William Nylander, Nathan McKinnon. Now, we're not going to be able to trade for most of these guys, but maybe you can find a diamond in the rough somewhere, a guy like a William Karlsson, who is here at, like, my game is lagging so much, but a guy like William Karlsson, who is 86 overall, really strong second line center, but he's not going to be as expensive to get as somebody like McDavid or Forsberg or Hughes or Matthews, right? So William Karlsson could be interesting for anybody who's out there looking for them. Vincent Trocheck as well. I wonder what Vincent Trocheck's overall is in this game. 87, that's a little steep. Arturi Lehkonen, only an 83 overall, and he's out here with all of these big boys with the takeaway. So you can sort by anything you want. The way you sort also, I didn't say this, the way you sort is you just click in L3. Again, if you're looking on how to do things that I'm saying, they're in the bottom of the screen right there, sorting L3. Look at the player info to bring up their player card. You can see their stats, things like that. If you want to select them, if you want to go back into the other screen. So you sort by L3. So I want to see who has the most goals in the league. Click in L3, and we see it's Matthews followed by Draisaitl and Rantanen. Who is the best plus-minus player in the league? We click L3, we see it's Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser, and JT Miller. That Vancouver line is tearing it up. Who is the most penalty minutes? We click in L3, and we will see it's Jacob Middleton in the Minnesota Wild, followed by Patrick Maroon of the Chicago Blackhawks, and then another Minnesota Wild of Marcus Foligno. So they are on the penalty kill quite a lot. So one more quick thing I forgot to show you guys is that when you reach the trade deadline, you are going to be greeted with this screen. It says, update your trade status. Hey, it's your Pro Scout. Before we head into the trade deadline, I wanted to see if you require an update to your trade block. You can keep your current trade block how it is, or you can decide to become a seller, a conservative buyer, or a buyer. Now, at our record of like 22, 30, and 10 or something like that, we are most definitely a seller. There is probably no way we're going to make the playoffs. So I would say we are a seller, although realistically, I'd probably just keep the block and look for trades that I want to make myself. But for this video, I will say we are definitely a seller. And now let's enter the trade deadline. It's not something I usually do, but it's good to show you guys because this is a pretty interesting game mode kind of a thing where you can look at players that are on discounted prices and strong players at that. So if you were a contending team and you looked at the takeaway leaders and you saw William Karlsson there, he's now on the trade block. He has a clause, but he has 37 points in 62 games as like a second line center. He's making $5.9 million. You can see that all in the right side of your screen here. He's a centerman. His value is not too crazy either. You will see at the bottom of your screen it says trade alert. That's because the Wild have just traded Jared Spurgeon to the Utah Hockey Club for, it looks like, a prospect and a second round pick and maybe some other prospects. So that means Jared Spurgeon has now been sold. If we look at Joel Eriksson Ek, and all these other guys in here, we can see who's available, who has a clause, and all that jazz. So all this stuff is nice. Now if we hold R2, we can see all of the available players instead of just the top 10. So we can scroll in. Maybe we want somebody a little bit more depth, like an Andrei Kuzmenko or somebody like that. Unfortunately, every time it says trade alert, it's going to throw you back to the start. But look at this. The Jets traded a first and Chaz Lucius to Seattle in exchange for Adam Larsson and Oliver Bjorkstrand. So the Jets get Larsson and Bjorkstrand. They are really buffing up to make a good playoff push. It looks like the computer decided to throw Ridley Gregg on the block for us. But all these things, man, you can do so many things in this universe. You can make whatever trades you want. Not quite, but you can pretty much trade for anybody that you want as long as they aren't like franchise players. And you can do absolutely everything. Everybody's GM mode will look different. Oh, look at this. We have a trade incoming, a first round pick for Ridley Gregg and Artem Zub. That seems wildly in favor of the Carolina Hurricanes. A first for my top pairing defenseman and my third line left winger, who is probably going to become my second line left winger next year and could be my second line winger this year. No thanks, Carolina. You are smoking, brother. So not too interested in that one, but again, you could sit here and wait, or you could go into the proposed trade yourself. Again, as more trades flash across the screen, of course, Dallas trade Christian Kyrou and another prospect and a 5th-round pick for Eric Gustafsson. So I could go in here. Now we're 21, 28, and 12. We are not a buyer, but if we were, we could come in and we can look who is a bad team. Buffalo, they're 25, 35, and 1. They're in our division, but who's on their block? They have some depth players on their block here. They have Jason Zucker, Connor Clifton, Henry Jokiharju. Do we need a depth defenseman? Maybe we decide to pick up Henry Jokiharju. If you're a contender. Ottawa's not a contender in this universe, right? But if you were, that's something you could do. And then, we are a seller. Do we want to trade away a Nick Jensen, who is doing nothing on our team? Give him to a team that can afford him and that, could be a good player. And what do we want back? We don't want really too much back. Can you give us Oscar Olofsson? Probably not, but would it go through? Let's see. What do they say? They will reject the trade. The value is not there whatsoever, so we can't get Oscar Olofsson. Can we get Jean-Luc Foudy maybe? What do you say, Colorado? But he only has medium top 9. See, I'd be looking for somebody maybe medium top 6, or maybe you just want to dump Nick Jensen, free up some cap space, and just give me a 4th and a 7th. How about that, Colorado? What do you say to it? Would you do this trade? This is gonna allow us to play, some more depth players a little bit more. Nick Jensen didn't have a contract or didn't have a no move clause or anything like that. So what do you say to it? They accept the deal. There you go. Nick Jensen's off the roster. Just things like that. If you wanted to do them, you can. If you don't want to do them, you don't have to, but that is what the trade looks like. The trade block looks like here. Then you can also find a trade. So if I wanted to pick up Joel Eriksson, oh no, he wasn't taken. Say I wanted to pick up a guy like Adin Hill. I can click L1 on him, on somebody like Adin Hill. L1 will be the find a trade on the open block. So this means it's not going to take into account either of our team's trade blocks. Or I can do triangle. That's going to find a trade with keeping in mind the trade block. So I click L1 here. Is there any trade? Wait, why can't I? Oh, because he has a clause. Okay, so available. Ryan Strom's available. Let's click L1 on Ryan Strome here, and it will show us a trade that we can do. We can trade Zub and JBD and a 4th-round pick for Ryan Strome. Fair enough. So if you want to do that, you could. Looks like we have another offer here. Noah Rigor, a 3rd, and Nick Cousins for 2 prospects. You could do this if you wanted to. I'm just going to decline it for right now. But that is what the trade deadline is all about. After this point, it's important to note, after this point, if you don't know hockey or anything like that, you will not be able to make any trades. So that's what the trade deadline means, is that after this point, your team is finalized. You can still move between your AHL and your NHL team any players that you want, but you cannot make any trades. Waivers are still in effect, though, so you will often see after the trade deadline, players will be sent on waivers, and you can pick some people up and things like that, but you cannot make any trades to any other team. So the team that you have after the deadline is the team that you are stuck with until the draft. So that's important to note. You can't make changes before the playoffs with the team. This is the team that we're going to stick with, though. We're just going to exit the trade deadline. And now we're going to see a bunch of pop-ups of important trades that went down. Here we go. Here we see Calvin Pickard is on the waiver. So we're going to decline him. But if you wanted another backup goalie, you could pick him up. We're going to decline him for now, though. And as we simulate, we are going to start to see the big trades that happened, maybe, if any happened. The game is thinking, no, okay, no big trades decided to happen. So what you can do if you want to see what happened at the deadline, you can stop that simulation, you can click circle and back out, and we can, where would it be? Hang on, let me just take a quick look here. So if we go into the last one here, the little cog wheel that is like your settings button usually, you can click activity feed, and from the activity feed, you hold L2, and you go player and pick trading. This is going to show you all the trades that happened at the trade deadline. So you can go through all of them if you want, and you can see, okay, Utah picked up Jared Spurgeon. Let's see. Winnipeg picked up Adam Larson and Oliver Bjorkstrand. They sent out Chaz Lucius. So Chaz Lucius is now in Seattle. Adam Larson is now in Winnipeg. Eric Gustafson is now over in Dallas. Rasmus Anderson went to the Nashville Predators, so Nashville is loading up. Nick Jensen went to Colorado. We picked up a 4th and a 7th. JT Compher and Jeff Petrie are in Vancouver. So many moves are happening. A first go to Calgary from Tampa. Tampa picks up Tyson Barrie. LA Kings get Zach Whitecloud. Ivan Barbashev goes to Buffalo from Vegas. Interesting pick considering that Buffalo is like the worst team in the league, but whatever. Edmonton bring back Cody Ceci. They also get Mackenzie Blackwood, right? You can go ahead and you can look at all of this stuff. You can study it. You can just take a look and see, oh, who are the big names that moved? This is usually what I do for the GM modes because it's impossible to keep track of every single player. But that's what you can do. Now I will simulate to the end of the year. We will simulate through until, I'll just go to the end of the year so that I can show you the stats and I can show you where to find those and things like that. And then I will show you what the draft looks like. All right, you guys, so now the regular season is over and we get to see our team leaders. We see Claude Giroux had 82 games played, 73 assists, 71 points. But if we want to take a more in-depth view, we can go in. Also, hang on, I forgot to show you guys this box score. So when we're down here in the settings menu here, we can take a look at the box scores. This is going to show us every single game that happened. So let's take a crazy one here. 6-7. Look at this. Philadelphia and Columbus had a 6-7 game. I want to see what the heck happened in this one. Who was doing what? And I can. The 3 stars, who were they? Mitch Cobb had a hat trick. Oh my gosh, look at that. Isn't that fun? Mitch Cobb had a hat trick. And who else on Philadelphia was doing their thing? Scott Lawton had 3 points. Sanheim had 3. Morgan Frost had 3. Mitch Cobb had 3. Noah Cates had 2. How did anybody not get a points? Okay, there are a couple of people who didn't have points, but I love that you can do this now, EA. This is something we've been asking for so long. On Columbus's side, let's see. Fantilli and Chinikov with 4 points each. Oh my gosh, right? But this is something we've been asking for forever, and they finally did it. So if we want to take a look, let's see. We played Chicago that same night. This was a crazy night in the NHL. Oh my gosh, look at all these scores. 4-1 for us against Chicago. One of the few games we won this year. Allmark made 34 saves on the night. Amazing. The Ottawa stats. Claude Giroux had 2 points. A lot of guys with 2 points here. Nobody had 1 point. Very interesting. And we can look at the goalies. 971 save percentage for Allmark. That's great to see. You can go through any game, man. So this is going to show me all of April's games. You can go through. You can look at the 6-5 game for Pittsburgh if you wanted to, right? It just adds to the world. It just really adds to the world. If you hold L2, you can check out September. Let's see. Let's look at the preseason games in September, man. This 6-4 game against the San Jose Sharks and the Anaheim Ducks. Who was playing for San Jose? Macklin Celebrini had 2 points. Benning had 3 points, right? Just great to see that they finally added this. So that's something nice that I completely forgot about. But regardless of that, doesn't matter. Ottawa went, what did we go? Oh, let me take a quick look. I click in R3, a new way to get to this menu. I see 32, 36, and 14. Where does that mean we finish? Let's hold L2, go to the entire league. Okay, Vancouver won the President's Trophy. Nice to see. Edmonton came second. Utah was third. Utah is a sleeper. I'm telling you guys, I think Utah's making the playoffs this year. Not many people are talking about it. I think Utah's making the playoffs. We go into place. If we just click L3, So I click L3, I can sort by place, who was ranked first, and if I click L3 in again, I can sort by the worst teams in the league. We finished 26th, so it looks like we had a bit of a run there in the final couple of games, where we end up finishing 26 instead of the 28 that we were at originally. So that means we're going to get like a top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, top 7 pick, hopefully. You can always drop down with the draft lottery, but you guys know what I'm saying. You can look at the goals for, goals against. Again, I'm not going to go through that in depth. I already did earlier in the video. We want to take a look at our team and who did what for us on our team. This first line was doing their thing, plus 20 with like 70 points each, but the second line got torched, man. They got wrecked. It's minus 30 for the second line. That's unacceptable, and they only had 40 points. Rough season for them. Thomas Chabot had 14 goals. Oh my gosh, he almost reached 15. 14 goals, 20 assists. I don't know if anybody got the goals that they were supposed to. Shane Pinto, sorry, and by goals, I mean, I don't know if anybody reached the season-long goals that we were supposed to have. Josh Norris, only with 17 goals. He was supposed to get 30. Ridley Gregg, I don't think he reached his... Wait, what did I say to Ridley Gregg? I think I gave him an X Factor. Same thing with Batherson. He was supposed to give me, I think, 40 or 50 assists. He didn't end up doing that. What about Allmark? Did he reach his 30, 40 wins? No, he didn't. Unfortunate. So nobody really reaches their goals, which is tough to see. Let me go through the entire league just to show you guys who did what for their teams in the entire league. In case you were interested, or in case you forgot how to do it, you hold the L2 button, you scroll all the way down or all the way up, you find entire league. It's the first one, and you will see McDavid scored 144 points. Finally, McDavid actually plays like Connor McDavid in the real world. In the former games, like in the past 3, 4, 5, 6 years, whatever, McDavid was scoring like 80 points. And you're like, no. McDavid is a 150-point type of guy. He has the possibility to be a 150-point type of guy. Not every year, of course, because everything has to go right for you to be like that. Matthews scores 63 goals. We want to sort by goals. We go over to the G category and we click in L3. Matthews shows up, Pasternak, McDavid, all this stuff. If we want to sort by defenseman, we click in, we hold the right trigger, we sort by defenseman. We see Cale Makar with 99 points. He's probably going to win the Norris. We sort by goalies. We see Thatcher Demko with 51 wins and 922 save percentage. He's going to win the Vezina. We see the rookies. Who was our rookie? It was Michkov with 48 points, Mecklin Celebrini with 41. Good to see Michkov doing his thing. Any rookie goalies out here? Not really. Okay. So that's how you can take a look at all that stuff. And now I will simulate to the draft, and I'll run you guys through the draft really fast, and then you can get out of here, because I've been recording for 2.5 hours now. So, and again, guys, just something else to note if you wanted to really keep an eye on the playoffs. Say you missed the playoffs and you're tanking for a pick, you can still keep an eye on it. Look at this. We're in the calendar. You can look at the Western Conference here. We're in the second round. Chicago is up 2-0 over Nashville somehow. Edmonton and Dallas are tied once again in a brawl at 1-1. And then over in the East, the Pittsburgh Penguins are somehow beating the Rangers 2-0, and Boston and Florida, a rematch of that series, they are tied. So you can simulate through this like this and just keep watching. You can't change your team to become one of those teams and simulate the game as if you're watching it, which is something that I tend to do when I am in the playoffs. But of course, I did not make the playoffs in this video, so that's something there. Here, we can keep an eye on this Stanley Cup Finals. Why not? Let's go a week and see if there's a winner after that time. There might be. And Florida wins back-to-back in this universe. Congratulations to them. The salary cap is going to go up. And now the 23rd is when the draft shows up. So let's do that. And the draft lottery, we stay at number 7. Unfortunately, we don't move up, but at least we didn't move down either. Look at this. LA goes from 6 to 2. Good stuff for LA. Everybody else remaining pat. So nice to see. Retired players is going to show up in a second. You can review the retired players and take a look. Did any of your favorites retire? Corey Perry goes out tough. Shea Weber retires. Milan Lucic, all these guys. Brian Little. In the first year, not too many people are going to retire. Coaches can retire. Corey Perry has become a scout. So if you want to bring Corey Perry and Shea Weber into your scouting system, go ahead and do that. Find them in the scouting screen. I showed you where that is. And now here we are at the draft. And all we have to do for the NHL entry draft is go to the first tab here, the one where you have to advance day and go into the stats and all that stuff. And you can click NHL entry draft. We click in, and we will see that all these players, just got to give it a second to load here as I ramble about nothing. Seattle has the first pick, LA with the second, San Jose with the third. We have the 7th overall selection. Now, I didn't do any scouting, so let's see how the AI did at the scouting categories here. So we have a medium elite, we know for sure going number 1, and that is Gustav Grigorenko, who is around the 7 mark. Unfortunately, we don't know about Michael Misa. We know Caleb Denourier is a two-way forward, perhaps. He's from the QMJHL. He might be a two-way forward. He might not be a two-way forward, but he does have weakness of character. Don't like seeing that here in Ottawa. Come on, man. You got to be tough. But yeah, the AI does not give you too much to work with, so I'm just going to really select whoever I want. But you can go to the sim options. You can sim each pick individually like this. Sim the pick. They pick up Grigorenko. LA, we can sim their pick. They are going to pick up Frondel. Okay. I just want to show you, yeah, so you see the Carolina Hurricanes have a little satellite thing in the top left of their card. That means they're willing to trade their pick. So anybody with it, and the Islanders also have it, they're willing to trade their picks. You can click X on that team and you can try to get their trade, try to trade for that pick, and you can do it the same way that you would trade for any other player or anything like that. But we will simulate to our pick number 7. Let's see if we can find a gem here. Roger McQueen goes. I don't really know the rookies this year, so forgive my insolence for that one. But let's make the pick. When you're making a pick, just blanket advice here, especially in the first year, or the first year especially. Guys with faces, especially later in the rounds, like if we go all the way down here to, I don't know, like in the 40s or something, anybody with a face is not going to be elite. And the reason is because the EA doesn't have guys scouting the QMGHL and the OHL, finding all these guys, being like, oh, that guy's going to be an elite player. I know they're supposed to take him at 75 in like the real world, but trust me, he's going to be elite. So none of these guys down here who have faces are going to be elite players. At the top, yeah, you're gonna memorize. If you do many drafts, you're gonna memorize who the top guys are. You're gonna know that Roger McQueen is a 75 overall medium elite, Martin is a 76 overall medium elite, and that looks like really the only top guys in this draft. But so if you do enough drafts, you'll remember them. They'll stay the same throughout. I'm pretty sure. We'll pick up Michael Misa just because he's the first guy here. It looks like he could be okay. He's 6'1". He's a centerman. In the last game, I know that he was a medium elite, so let's see if he is in this one as well. And he is 73 overall medium elite, so look at that. We got another playmaker in here, over here in Ottawa. So again, you can simulate to your next pick, you can simulate to the next round, or you can simulate the entire draft, and we will just simulate the entire draft. But when you are looking at the draft class, you can sort by the central scouting rankings. You can sort by potential. Did our guys find any gems? Well, look at this guy, Gabriel Dagla, of course, the legend, the NHL 24 legend. This guy always plays so well in NHL 24. And all these other guys, 2-bar just means that, yeah, maybe it's right, but probably it's not. 3-bar means, you are probably in the right category. Do we have any 3-bar elite or 3-bar any scouting players here? So many. Just 1-bar means you can't trust it at all. You don't know. It could be anything. 4-bar means that's what they are. So Caleb Denourier here is a 4-bar medium top 6 player. He was ranked number 8. We decided to go with Roger McQueen instead, but this means he is guaranteed to be a top 6 player. Same thing with Braylon Mayers. He is guaranteed to be a top 6 player. With Malcolm Spence, he is 2-bar medium top 6. It means he could be, but he could also be like medium top 9 or something like that, which is not as good. So you want to really go with those 4-bar guys that you know are elite players, or 4-bar guys you know that are top 6 players, or if they have 3-bar elite or top 6, I would go with those guys as well. But for the most part, that is how you draft. Very base understanding of drafting. I mean, to really figure out the drafting, it's going to take like an hour-long video. So that's not this one. Obviously, this was just an overview of the entire mode, which they have added so much to. So we can sim the entire draft. And I'll show you guys the free agency really fast. Actually, I should show you the re-sign stage as well, because the re-sign stage in this year is going to look a little bit different. So let's go over to that. So we have coaches expiring, we have scouts expiring, we have players expiring, all this stuff that you have to take advantage of, or that you have to figure out. So let's go to re-sign our players. You click X on that one, and you can sort. Hold R2, you can sort by the expiring players. And this is going to show you Ridley Gregg is expiring. He has jumped to an 85 overall. What does he want as a contract? He only wants 1 year, 2.6. Now, if I would give him 2 years, he wouldn't be as interested, but he would still be down for it. 3 years, he's starting to think maybe not. But if I give him 3 years, 2.67, no, he's not too interested in that. 4 years, he does not want to stay for 4 years, so I could just give him his 2 year thing, maybe a 3. Now, let's just give him a 2 year thing, a one-way, no clause, and let's just offer him that and he would sign that probably. Again, we could go to goalies here, and we can go into, oh yeah, I guess Allmark has gotten his extension from EA, so that's nice to see. But a guy like Anton Forsberg, if we want to keep him on the team, he wants $1.375 million. He does not want the 1 year deal though, so he wants a two-year deal. But can I drop your salary a little bit? Yeah, 1.3 instead of 1.375. We're taking away 75K from you. So that, again, these are just things you will learn as you go, how much money that a player is willing to, drop in their negotiations, or how much they're willing to accept, or things like this. Look at this, Angus Crookshank is up to a 78 overall, and he wants a one-way deal though, so maybe we qualify him and think about him later. Qualify just means if he doesn't take the extension, he will take a 850K, and you will have him on for 1 more year, as it says 850K in the margins there. But if it's somebody like Noah Gregor, it's $935,000. If it's somebody like JBD, Jacob Bernard Docker, it's $885,000. But either way, all this nonsense doesn't really, it's not the end of the world here. Defensemen, of course, want so much money, but we can always drop their asking price a little bit, and we can see in the bottom right, or the bottom middle sort of, his current contract offer is he still wants the offer. He's still kind of interested in it. He's still interested in it. 3.45. Let's see if he accepts it. I don't even know if we have that kind of money. But either way, those things you can do in the re-sign phase. And now I will just simulate to free agency. Anton Forsberg's on board. Ridley Gregg rejects the offer, actually. Wow, that's crazy. And then Jacob Bernard Docker also rejects. So look at that. We didn't sign anybody. But again, that's something where you just take it 1 day at a time, guys. Just simulate 1 day at a time. Don't simulate all the way to free agency and expect that they are going to sign. Give everybody the contract offers that you want, but then simulate 1 day at a time instead of going all the way to free agency. But now that we're in free agency and nobody signed with us, we have some money to spend. We have $9 million that we can go out and get. So does anybody have organizational interest with us? Not really, because we are Ottawa. We're a very small market, which means we're going to have to compete with money. Matt Duchene, you want to come back to Ottawa, my friend? Come on back. We'll give you a no-move clause for 1 year at... Oh, he does not want to come back at all, but we're going to give him the bag, all right? You're going to get the keys to the castle here in Ottawa. How about this? 1 year, $9 million, right? Because I'm not keeping the save or anything like that, so let's just do it. 1 year, $9 million. Matt Duchene, come in. You can play with Claude Giroux. We're going to be the old folks home here, and then you can just simulate to the next season, or you can advance the day. But again, you go into free agency, you can sort by anything that you want. You can sort by position, you can sort by defense, by goaltending. If you wanted to bring in another goalie and have a 1-2 punch, Georgiev, very interested. There you go. We could have signed him instead. Right defenseman, any right defenseman out here? Of course, they want a boatload of money still, but a guy like Cody Ceci, Ottawa boy, Ottawa 67's legend, a David Savard, and Eric Johnson, and Nick Perbix, right? These guys are all players you can consider picking up. But that is going to do it. Actually, I want to see if Matt Duchene signed on with us. No, he rejects. Okay, fair enough. But that's going to do it, guys. That is the overview of this mode. It's crazy. They added so much, and I have high expectations for this next year. Quick thing here. If you stayed to the end of the video, you get to see how to find the awards. So you will see, you click in R3 on that main menu. It'll show you the player stats or the team stats, and then you can go all the way over to awards, where we will see the Stanley Cup, the President's Trophy, who was in the finals. It was Dallas and Florida. And then the individual awards, Mcdavid wins the Art Ross, the Hart. James Norris goes to Quinn Hughes instead of Cale Makar. Wow, that's interesting. Lady Byng to Sam Reinhart. The Calder goes who? Didn't Michkov have the most points? Okay, well, I guess the Calder doesn't always go to the guy with the most points now. Conn Smythe to Sam Reinhart, the Vezina and the Jennings to Thatcher Demko. Sealer wins the Masterton. The Jack Adams Trophy goes to the coach of the Detroit Red Wings. Crosby wins his first Selke. Ted Lindsay to McDavid, and the Maurice Richard to Austin Matthews for the 2nd year in a row, the 4th year in five. So that is NHL 25 franchise mode. If you stayed to the end, first of all, thank you, because I haven't posted a video in like 2 months, maybe longer, and that's because school has been insane. But I'm grinding school at the very least. I'm trying to think of ideas for content and things like that, how I'm going to do it this year. And I do want to get the franchise mode started. So leave it down below. Who do you want to see me do a franchise mode on? I'm thinking an American team because I've only done Canadian teams so far. So I'd love to do an American team in the Metro or in the Central, I think. Yeah, no, we just did the Central in the Pacific. So let me know who you want to see. I was thinking of, a team like the Philadelphia Flyers or a team like the Columbus Blue Jackets or a team like I don't know, over in the West, maybe a team like San Jose if you want to do a full rebuild, or maybe a team like LA, some older guys with less of a window to go through. I don't know. It's up to you guys. Whatever you want, throw it in the comments. If nobody says anything, I'll just choose whatever I want to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope it gets out there and you learned something from this video. Even veterans of the franchise mode, we all have to kind of change our vibe because things are so different now. No move clauses change everything. No trade clauses change everything. And the way that the negotiations and the morale works also changes everything. So leave a like, comment, all that stuff. And go check out the other franchise modes if you haven't already because I had so much fun recording them. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Peace out.